Hi, everyone. Welcome to Being Patient Perspectives. I'm Deborah Kahn, founder of Being Patient. Today, we're kicking off a new series called Diversity and Dementia, where we look at Alzheimer's through the lens of diverse communities. This segment is generously sponsored by Eisai, a human healthcare company. So our first guest is Andres Martin. Andres possesses a rare genetic mutation of Alzheimer's specific to people in a region of Mexico. Andres, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about, now this genetic mutation is known as the Jalisco mutation for the area, the region of Mexico that where many people possess this variant. How did you find out that you were genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's disease?
So Jalisco is a state of Mexico, and that's where my family's from. My father died of this disease in 2011, but we were in the blind about this. So we went until 2017 when my sister came across an article by Dr. Ringman at USC. And it was about a family that was dealing with these hurdles that were pretty much compared 100% to what we were dealing with timelines, location, for Mexico, and symptoms, and everything kind of like aligned. So that was our first sight. I was stationed in Hawaii when this happened. My sister sent me the article, and that was kind of the first step towards finding out what was killing my father and other generations. So
your father was quite young when he died. I believe he was about 51. Is that right?
52.
52. How did you know that he had Alzheimer's disease when he died?
No. So neurologists were saying that he had hydrocephalus. There was dementia was probably brought up just in general, but there was no the day we found out exactly what he had was the day that I was genetically tested, and I was positive for that gene, and then we were able to trace back to my father and grandfather and generations before that.
How many members of your family do you think had Alzheimer's disease? Do you know?
So my father, out of all the brothers and sisters, my father is the only one. Before that, my grandma just died about a year ago at a very old age, so she couldn't have had it. So that means my grandfather died he had a fall, and that caused him to die. But I mean, if that wasn't for that, he would have died of Alzheimer's. And then from there, it's just many generations behind that. So
how did they discover? I mean, I know about different like there's a village in Colombia that they're very highly predisposed to Alzheimer's disease that's received a lot of media attention. How was the genetic mutation from Jalisco first discovered?
So I would say, well, I don't know when it was, but I mean, it's Dr. Ringman has been the one that has been leading that fight. So at some point, there was traces of people dying at an early age, and I'm sure a scientist or a doctor kind of started doing research. But you're correct. There's mutations all over the world. They're still called early onset, but they're just a little different. And some of the things that I know that are different for a fact are age of onset. So I believe the one in Colombia has a similar age of onset about in the 40s. One of my buddies has a similar mutation out of Colorado, and his onset is in the 50s. So it depends when you start seeing symptoms.
That must have been a really hard decision to get a genetic test, knowing that this specific region that you're from is, there was a chance. What made you decide to actually get the genetic test to find out, if you did indeed possess this mutation?
Well, part of it is just kind of like an answer for what happened to my dad, because we were, again, every neurologist was telling us different things, hydrocephalus and just a bunch of things that were not correct. My father had surgeries that were done for no reason. Now we know that. I have, in 2017, I had Alexis. We had our Alexis, our first daughter. So I knew that there was a chance that, my children can have this. So I wanted to make sure 100%, both to my father and for my children, to know whether, how my father died, but also how my children will have to deal with this. So they have a 50% chance of having this mutation. So I just wanted to make sure that that my next generation, my children will not be dealing with everything I'm dealing with.
So, we know scientists have discovered specific genetic variants for early onset, like Presin1. They call it Presin 1 and 2. APP is another one. And if you possess one of these variants, then 100% chance you will get Alzheimer's. So is it the same for this Jalisco mutation? If you have the mutation, does that mean that you probably, or you definitely will have Alzheimer's if you continue to live to a certain age?
So it's so if both my parents would have had the genetic mutation, it would have been a 75% chance that I would have had it. Only my father had it, so I had a 50% chance. Now Alexis, since I'm the only one that has it, has a 50% chance of carrying that too.
Right. So you pass it down you will pass it down to your children, in other words. Like
there's a 50% chance that I would pass it on to
there's a 50% chance. So you don't know yet.
If myself and Amanda, my wife, both had the mutation, then it would be a 75% chance that our children would have it.
Right, I understand. Now, how, I can imagine that was a really hard decision to make, given that you have such a young daughter, and she's a few years old. Is that right? She's 2 or 3 years old?
She's 4.
4 years old now. Why, do you want her to know? Why did you decide that, it was important to know for you?
So I think I go to medical trials and go to conferences. There's people that can't handle that information. There's people that can. For me, I wanted to take control of my life, because if I don't know what's going on, I'm going to have doubts the rest of my life. So I wanted to take control. By getting this testing, I took control of my disease. So I knew that. So being a pilot in the Marine Corps, it's a very stretching job, sleep deprivation. So knowing that I had that gene, I requested for me not to be taken off of flight orders so I can focus, in my treatments. And because of that, I was able to get transferred to Walter Reed in Maryland. And my job is to go to medical appointments and, just be proactive, do research, new treatments that keep my brain healthy as much as possible.
So what type of treatments are you doing? Enlighten us about, you're predisposed to Alzheimer's. So what are the proactive steps that you are taking today?
So the simplest thing is like decreasing stress and sleep deprivation. So that by itself, it's doing a lot of good for me. TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. It's something that's been used for PTSD and depression. But I'm using that for neuroplasticity, so that every time I get these treatments, I'm creating new pathways, in my brain, as the amyloid protein and the tau protein and Alzheimer's kind of pretty much kill those connections between cells. I'm creating more in different directions. So it's not a cure, but what it's doing is it's helping me maintain my brain healthier than the average person. And the end state is that I'm giving scientists 2, 3, 4 more years of to figure it out and come up with a cure.
So were you tested for some of the hallmarks like beta amyloid plaque, tau tangles? Have you been given those type of scans, like a PET scan or
Yes.
A spinal tap, to confirm that they're present?
Yes, I've done probably about 20, 30 of those. So the amyloid scan shows my brain full of amyloid. I know the emphasis now is more tau when it comes to tau proteins, when it comes to the new medical trials and new researchers. And but yes, it's part of, I'll probably do it at least 2 to 3 times a year for these tests. So
do you feel like you're losing your memory? How old are you now, may I ask? Are you in your 30s?
33. I'll be 34 in the 25th of July.
Okay, so you're still very young. Do you feel at all like you're losing your memory?
No, I shouldn't have any symptoms for another 6 to 8 years. I am very, I'm all over my mind runs about 1,000 miles an hour. So it's been normal for me, to forget keys and stuff like that, like the average person. But my wife, obviously we know each other. She'll know if I'm ever get to the point where I have symptoms, she will know. But I feel like I'm 100%. I have something that can lead to me, forgetting stuff in years, and if 8, 10 years. but at this point, I feel 100% normal. And part of it is because I have control of my disease. I'm not relying on doctors or just other people to, give me information. I do enough research to keep me sane and have a normal life.
Are you participating in clinical trials, any drug trials or anything like
Yes.
that?
So I'm
Which
part of the
one are you in?
INTU.
I'm sorry?
I'm part of the INTU trial at WashU. And I think that's kind of the leading trial for early onset. Dr. Bateman and a couple other doctors there. Ellen is working on that. So I'm pretty familiar with them. When I started doing the trial, I was at Camp Pendleton in California. So I started at UCSD and got to know those people pretty well. And since I moved to the East Coast, but I'm still with them because we had a really good relationship and we help each other a lot. So it's a good place to be.
So what do you do for that trial?
All those scans you were talking about. So we do memory tests. We have a travel nurse that I see every 6 months. She does memory tests, blood work, and whatever's required for a running start for the trial. We're getting ready to start the new medication that works with that tau protein. So it's just every 6 months. Again, I see a nurse. Whenever I need to do scans, I fly either to San Diego or St. Louis, and that's pretty much the curriculum right now.
So are you getting any like intravenous drug therapies or
It's I was part of the amyloid protein trial. I don't know if you know this, but it got terminated because a lot of people were having liver enzyme issues. And then now the new drug that will be for tau protein will be initiating this year at some point.
what does it mean to be part of research for you?
I'll be honest, it's just all about Alexis for me. So just everything I'm doing, it's very simple. So anything I'm able to do is just to make sure that she doesn't have to deal with anything that I'm dealing with. So I really don't care about myself. It's all about her and my future generations.
In hindsight, Andres, did you note that maybe there were signals about your father that you didn't recognize as Alzheimer's previously?
I think at first, right after his death, obviously it was just fresh. We were trying to figure out what was going on. So 6 years later is when we found out what happened, right? So it just became, we kind of forgot about it in a way. I mean, not my father, but just the why, because no one had an answer. And that article kind of gave us the why. So there were drastic actions that were taken right after that. I mean, so I went from flying full time from the Marine Corps, just doing my normal job, to within a year, my aviation career was over, and it was all focused on the medical side.
Yeah. Have you talked to, I mean, your daughter's still very young. She's only 4 years old. Have you talked to her about Alzheimer's at all? Does she know what the disease is? I'm assuming it's probably too young to talk about your link to it, but have you ever talked about Alzheimer's and maybe your father?
Well, indirectly, it's going to be part of her life because we pretty much found out what we had pretty much like a couple months after she was born. So medical appointments, she goes to the UCSD. She sees me like going into MRIs. She knows I'm here, for medical appointments. She is too young to understand what Alzheimer's is, but like she knows her abuelo passed away, from a disease. So she indirectly, she is already part of it. It'll be normal for her when she gets to that age. It's not going to be something like a drastic action. It's going to be just part of her life.
Have you thought about how you might talk to her about it?
To be honest with you, I live day to day. It's just, I don't really worry about tomorrow. So it's not going to be difficult because again, it's been part of her life for 4 years already. She knows I go to doctor's appointments. She knows all this stuff. So I don't think it'll be a difficult conversation compared to, my sisters. Like when they were young, my father started getting sick and it was like a big drastic action, but do you mind if I talk a little bit about my sisters?
No, please. I was actually going to ask you, how many children are you, and does anyone else know that they have the mutation?
So I have two younger sisters. I'll let them talk about their issues, but I just wanted to praise them so much because like when my father was sick, one of my sisters was in junior high, one was freshman in high school, and I was away in college. they literally had to like take care of my father, like changing diapers, bathing, and everything. And these girls were in junior high and high school, so they were my dad's heroes. They didn't get to see the degradation of my dad as much as I did because I was home every 6 months, between semesters. So I can see the difference, between my dad every 6 months. But they were straight A students taking care of, an adult and cleaning the house and everything. And obviously my mom too, right? My mom was working. One of the mistakes we made, and I think a lot of Hispanic people do, is that we didn't think about life insurance or anything like that for my dad. So that was a hurdle that we had to deal with. My dad deserved a nice funeral, so we had to come up with money. But we learned so much, just based on all those mistakes we made with dealing with my father.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask you about that too, culturally speaking. Being from this part of Mexico, and is there cultural stigma attached to Alzheimer's? How do people deal with it? Is there, looking through the lens of being Hispanic, is there anything notable that could give us insight about?
Definitely more in Mexico than here. But like, if you think about it, you have something that's killing your family and you don't even know what it is. It's not even doctors. So that leaves a lot of room for interpretation by itself. So I know in Mexico, there's still people that live in the country, right? They're thinking about witchcraft and stuff like that. Because when I found out what I had, and I realized I was in the U.S. and it took me so long, I was like, and I can only imagine how long it's going to take for people in Mexico. So I collaborated with doctors, took them to Mexico. We had a conference and we gave people an answer. So now people knew exactly what it was. It didn't really change. There was no medication or anything, but like at least people like can have the basic information and then plan ahead. Like I was able to, right? Like, hey, my father's having these symptoms. So they were able to take people to the right place. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, there's definitely like, there was people that were like thinking it was witchcraft or something, but like it's just rightfully so, right? Like there was no answers even from doctors, so I can see that happening a lot. But not here in the U.S. with my family. Um, my parents immigrated here illegally, so I was first generation. So, but obviously, like I think it's just a little different life in the U.S. and Mexico, just with communication and dealing with all these stigmas.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of family members still in Jalisco?
I do. I think it's half. So both my parents were from Tepatitlan. It's the name of the city, and then it's about half and half.
So do you know that a lot of people from that, I mean, do you know a lot of people, maybe family or friends who have Alzheimer's disease?
Yes. I mean, I think I'm outspoken about my disease, so a lot of people reach out to me. So I know hundreds of people just that have this disease, even though it's rare. I mean, but we're Diane Trial, Dr. Ringman, Dr. Sanchez, he's in Mexico. Connie is someone that, she's similar to me. She's living with the disease. We kind of all work together. And our goal is to accelerate, from finding out that you have this to, research, which is like, Diane Trial. It took us 6 years. So within an hour, we can have someone like literally like with the right person. Dr. Ringman actually pays for people to come to the US and get tested and do research. So there's a program that can benefit anyone. So it's pretty cool, just the process. Being able to help somebody just spending 2 minutes with them right on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sorry if you can hear the sirens in the background. There's like
I can't.
But tell me, Andres, what it means. Like when you, I mean, I admire you because it doesn't seem like you fear Alzheimer's. Is that true to say?
Correct. So I don't let it take over my life. I have control of it. So, and hypothetically, it does have control of my brain, right? But part of it is just being informed. If you don't know anything about it, you're gonna panic. Anything in life, right? Just for you, if I said go jump in a helicopter and go fly it, you're gonna panic, right? And I've seen a couple of weeks you'll be comfortable. So with this, there's too much information and there's not enough. If you have too much, Alzheimer's is still has control of your life because you're just constantly trying to do research and read all the stuff that you don't understand. When you know enough, I know enough and I know who to reach out to if I have any questions. And that allows me to be comfortable and live my life. And I mean, I'm an adult, but I'm a big kid and I like to have fun. So like, just, I wouldn't, Alexis deserves 100% out of me, and not being depressed and just being happy and going to the beach, wrestling. She loves to wrestle. Every time she sees me, she wants to wrestle. She says she kicks my butt. So
That's wonderful. And what would you say to people who, maybe have just been diagnosed or are finding out that they have a genetic variant? What would be your advice to them?
get to the point where you can be comfortable living. So my motto is living with Alzheimer's, and it's just, there's so much to it, right? Living with it means being able to have control of it. One of the bad things about medical trials is that if you 100% rely on medical trials and then doctors giving you info, it's a big roller coaster. You find out you have something that's, you're low. You find out there's a medical trial and there's a chance you're high, but like it gets canceled, then you got to wait a year for another one. So that's, if you ride in the roller coaster, it's going to ruin your life. But like for me, there's no plasticity. I can get in Brain HQ. There's certain, learn a new language, and that helps you stay sane, finding a way to sleep, 7, 8 hours. And that just by itself, and that's what I mean by living with Alzheimer's, and taking control, because you can have a good life and let the scientists do what they have to do, enjoy life. Because you never know. I have this disease, but I'm not guaranteed to live 8 years, right? I can have an accident. I can have something else happen to me. So that's kind of what keeps me. And again, I think part of it too is that I'm not a long-term planner. I'm a very spontaneous person. So I just don't have time to, like, I'm always thinking about a different thing every millisecond. So like, I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. And that's just the way I am.
Well, and what a great, great role model you are to many people out there. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And, for that matter, participating in research, because it really does help everyone who's been touched by Alzheimer's. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Can I add one more thing, ma'am?
Yeah, of course.
If anyone has any questions about this, again, just for my specific mutation, Jalisco mutation, it's Dr. Ringman at USC. He'll refer you to Diane trial, which is at Washington University. So if you go to online, it'll be Diane TU. So that's a resource. And then if you have a early onset, but it's not specific to mine, Diane trial will still be the way to go. So Ellen will be someone that can help you, and they'll set you up. If you're in Mexico or another country, there's programs that help you bring you down to the US and get the treatments you need. So I apologize.
No, not at all. And thank you for sharing that information, because often people are writing in saying, how do I get into a trial? So we can also link to and post a link as well, and share the link for anyone who would like to find out more about the Diane trial. Thanks, Andres. And we wish you all the luck in the world. And you're inspiring. Keep living life. So thank you so much for sharing your story. To our audience, if you want to know more about Andres, we're going to post a featured article on him. Go to beingpatient.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletters. We're going to let you know about these talks on diversity and dementia and many more coming up. Again, thanks to our sponsor, Eisai, a healthcare company, for sponsoring this series. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.